Oh God! All right. Oh, I'm live. Let me All right. Welcome to the very first live stream of the Amaze Me Gods universe lore talk thing. Anyway, so we're gonna go over a couple of points. First off, what is the Amaze Me Gods universe? What does it entail? What exactly is it about? Well, we'll get into that in just a second. Because first things first, I made mac and cheese and it was a bomb. It was delicious. I haven't eaten in like 3 hours, so it was good. Anyway, let's talk about the Amaze Me Gods universe. Now, being an artist, being a writer as well, I am gifted with the ability to be able to brew the idea and then put it on paper in more ways than one. And with all of this artwork that I've been able to push out and everything, I've been able to put an image to what I'm thinking about, which is absolutely fucking fantastic. Oh, man, I love it. I'll show you guys in a second. But first things first, let's talk about the Amaze Me Gods. So, the Amaze Me Gods universe is, first off, it is a book series. I am not yet publishing it because it's not done. It was started in 2007, and I have to redo like the first 8 books because they're really bad, like very poorly written. 2007 me. And I have to go through all of it, and I have to do a lot of like editing and all that other nonsense. But besides that, let's actually talk about the Amaze Me Gods universe. So the Amaze Me Gods universe takes place in its, I guess you could call it its own separate universe, or maybe a parallel universe, or whatever you want to call it, but that doesn't really matter. The beginning of it starts pretty much as one would expect. You have the Big Bang and all that other nonsense, but how it started in the Amaze Me God series is, at first there was nothing. And then 2 orbs came into this universe, this emptiness, this void, this lack of, and one of them, these entities, this you could describe them as like an outward going ball of blue fire called the Old Flames. Well, one of them died and released its bodily material into the known universe, but it didn't release it like a big old boom. It released it like a slow, steady, outgoing, thing. And it basically gave material to this void. Well, the other old flame was tired of being lonely, so it took this material and itself and created 4 creatures called the Protanus. The Protanus are these, I guess you can call them godlike beings, cosmic deities, whatever you want to call them. They are named in a language that I cannot comprehend, cannot speak. So I have given them names based on their attributes. And on their attributes, ooh, goodness. Is my microphone even picking up anything? Hold on. I guess it is. Anyway, in all of them, they all have different attributes, and they all have different power, I guess you could call it. The firstborn, Lucifer, is the god of creation, and in his power, I say his very subjectively, it's a cosmic god. I don't think it has a gender, but Lucifer is the god of creation. He has the power to be able to make things. He has the power to put everything together. The secondborn is Michael. He is the god of destruction. He takes everything back apart. And then the thirdborn is Odette, the goddess of chaos. Saw how things were being put together and then pulled apart and was like, hey, you know what? What if they swirl around each other too? Awesome. And then the fourthborn, Rose, the goddess of time. Having the power of time, however, makes one very jaded, knowing that everything has an end. Well, the Old Flame did not instruct these gods to do anything in specific except to do whatever they wanted with this universe, and left, went away, slept, was like, whatever, do your thing. And that's exactly what the Protaenists did. Lucifer went around the entire universe, putting things together, creating stars, creating rocky worlds, gas giants, nebula, everything, and everything that he could possibly create, he created it. Michael chased right after him, blowing things up, smashing planets together, breaking rocks into their smallest dusty components. He didn't care. But that's what he wanted to do, because I was in his blood. And then Odette, well, made everything move, everything react to each other, made everything repel. Whatever the other one is. You got repel and then bring together. Anyway, and then Rose gave everything forward motion, time. Gave everything an end date, an expiration date. Well, Lucifer, after many millennia, pulled aside all the Protaenists and said, all right, let's have ourselves a small contest. Let us create something and pit it against each other and see who wins. And I don't know if anybody made any reward after that, because they're gods. I don't think they need one. But Lucifer created a creature known as the Modcam. These creatures were small, scrunched over, and bipedal digigrade creatures, red eyes, gray skin, long black plumes going down its back. But besides being very small and timid, it was extremely intelligent. Wasn't very strong, though. Michael created the Vital, these strong, aggressive-looking reptilian-type creatures. 2 legs, 2 arms, teeth all up in its face, claws all up on its hands, scales as sharp as knives. It was beast, but it wasn't very smart. Odette made space whales. Speaking of space whales, Odette made space whales, which kind of looked like this. And they floated off into the ether. And Rose, it is said that she did not really take part in it and completely ignored the competition and just walked away. Well, Lucifer and Michael's creation, the Modcam and the Vital, went to this world, and they lived there for several millennia, going back and forth, killing one another, taking over another's, becoming more evolutionarily advanced, and eventually the Modcam won. The Modcam did win because they out-evolutionized the Vital, and the Vital were forced underground and were never seen again. The Modcam, they were reached out by Lucifer, and Lucifer said, congratulations on becoming the victor. You have won. Mind you, this is several millennia later when the Modcam are like, huh? Who are you? Like, oh yeah, we're one of the gods of the universe. And you're like, huh? Amaze Me gods? Lucifer gave them completely free reign. However, the Modcam also understood that they were the only ones in the universe, besides the Vital that they had been fighting against for a very long time, which they most recently thought that they have, pushed underground. The Modcam thought that they could just break the universe, go as far as they possibly could. And that's exactly what they did. With their technological prowess, they built all of their technology to mimic nature. They built all kinds of things. They broke all kinds of physics. They bent the entire universe to its very will. And soon it became one world, one galaxy, 5 galaxies, 100 galaxies, 1,000 galaxies. And then soon the Modcam were all over the universe. Every single part of the universe, even the edge of the universe, even on the other side. The Modcam created their empire, and they existed for a very long time. Mind you, this is also during a time period of when the universe itself was just starting to cool down to more manageable temperatures. There's actually if you believe in how the universe is, what is it, like 5.6 billion years ago or some shit like that? It's like 5.2, whatever, 5 billion years ago, when the universe was created and all that shit like that, or whatever have you. There was like a time period where the universe was like just cooling down into more manageable states. Well, life was flourishing during that time, and that's exactly the time. They built all kinds of things. They built planets, entire worlds called cyber worlds that would be able to harbor their own atmosphere and their own existence. And then in comes the child emperor, Anshewald Svalid. He was a very special emperor. He asked his scientists to make something that would play with him back. For the mod cam that have been alone in the universe for a very long time, I had no idea what that was. Something that would play back with him? Why don't they just give him a friend? Well, that didn't work out. So their lead scientists created robots that would be able to play back. However, he said, no, I want something that'll be able to laugh at my jokes, be able to play back with me. Well, the scientists went back to the drawing board, and then they thought, hey, wait a second. What if we create something like us that'll be able to play with him? Their first attempt at creating organic carbon-based life, just like them, flopped horribly. The ModCam scientists end up creating this black tar creature. It didn't have a form. It didn't have eyes. It didn't have a mouth. It didn't have a brain, but it screamed for mercy. It begged to die. And the ModCam realized that they fucked up. This literal nightmare fuel. They sealed it in this container. They opened up the earth and they cast it down and they forgot about it. But then they realized what they did wrong. They wanted to make something like them. So why don't they put them into it? Which is what they did. They took a certain line of their genetic code and they put it into the next creature. And this next creature came out, for lack of better terms, flawless. They created the Ceolan. And then they realized their job wasn't to become technologically advanced. It wasn't to spread themselves amongst the stars and die out. It was to spread life. That was the ModCam's goal. So that's what they did. Then they made the humans. Then they made the Dracor. Then they made the Selosian. Then they made the Wolgar. Then they made trees. And they made grass. And they made birds. And they made everything. Everything that you can possibly see with every naked inch of your eye. That didn't make any sense. But everything. They made everything. Everything. Frogs, fish, octopi, you name it. And they just kept pumping it out and pumping it out and pumping it out. Mind you, there's also a very meticulous thing that they did with this. They knew more things about genetics than we definitely do now, and they encoded the very genetic molecules to go in a certain direction when affected by a certain thing. So all of the evolution that they've planned, millions of years in advance, billions of years in advance, everything would go exactly as planned. It was in the design. Well, the ModCam, after creating all of these races, all these species, all these creatures, all of these things, they're like, I think that all of this needs to have a leader. And then they created the Rodon. Only one, though. And this Rodon was designed to be the leader of pretty much everything. There would be no civilizations without this creature's, explicit permission. Think of it like a demon of fire. tyranny at its greatest. The iron grip that it would have over the universe would have been astronomical. Thankfully, it was unfinished. Thankfully, it was left in a laboratory that has since been lost to time. Then the unbeing came back. It wasn't dead. It was angry. It was angry. It was livid. It was pissed. It was so unbelievably angry that it wished death upon the mod cam, and it would do anything in its power. This evil incarnate, this real evil, it struck out. And people of the modcam empire didn't see it coming. Mind you, they lived all over the universe because of these devices called gates. Essentially, think of them as two posts, and in the middle of it, there's a portal that can be formed, and it takes you from point A to point B like that. And they had these gates all over the universe, and the modcam used that to its advantage. It was very quick. It was so quick that all of them just disappeared. Historians have no idea what happened to them. They don't even know if they died. They don't know if they escaped. They just, all of them left. They all abandoned their post. Food still fossilized on its plates. Clothing, tarpeting, broken and raspy. Flags still left in their same position. Everything. Homes unbothered for millions of years. Devices, all of their technology left behind, and they just disappeared. No corpses, no bodies, no blood, no struggle. Nothing. Just gone. But before that could happen, Antiwald Svalid ordered every species to go to its attributed planet. All of the species that were created, the modcam either created worlds or used their devices and their technology to create certain places. And over time, eventually their worlds would form, such as the solar system, but that's not really the thing in question right now. Their technology was so great that they could form entire solar systems, and everything would go exactly as according to plan. But Antiwald Svalid ordered them all out to their associated places, and as his empire was dying, he sent one last transmission to all of the cosmos. To dust we go, to dust we return. That is a resonating message that reverbed across the entirety of the universe for eons. Fast forward a little bit, a couple million years pass, a couple hundred thousand million years. In comes the Seolans, and the Amaze Me God series is primarily about the Seolan race. The Seolans are giants. You can imagine them to visually look like a human does, with the exception of their entire bioorganic structure is completely different. 2 lungs, 2 hearts, 2 stomachs, a Humibex gland, which is basically their hyperuniversal organ, and that's it. Most of their body is muscle. Most of their body is structure. They are very, very hardy creatures. They are extremely hard to kill. They're still flesh and blood, and they can still die. But the Seolans landed on their world, and this is the part of history for the Seolans that is a little ambiguous. It's mostly myth, legend, hearsay, rumor, stories, because they didn't record their history up until at the end of the Anthelian period. Well, they arrived at their new world, and it is said that when they were born, when they came to be, lightning struck the ground, and every time that a bolt would land, a Seolan was born. A great storm came. Boom, 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 boom. And Seolans were born out of the material called white spark. The process of them getting there was a very long time. So them finally being there, they got everything under control. They there was four Seolan types, kind of like how there's like Russians, Germans, Africans, Indian, American, English, that kind of thing. You know how there's those kind of things. The Seolans have four primary races. They have the Acutians. They are wheat-colored hair, tan-skinned, yellowed-eyed, more thin, athletic creatures. They're still Seolans, and that's just what they are. And then you have the Brahmin, which are much bigger, much brawlier, much more stronger, and they have white hair, white eyes, and like jet black skin. Okay, jet black skin. They're wonderful creatures. They really are. They're very industrious, very hardworking. And then you have the Chedians, which are black-haired, white-skinned, blue-eyed creatures. Very serious, very by the schedule, very, kind of thing. And then you have the Kolkar, which have red hair, freckled white skin, green eyes. Yes, gingers. All of the Seolans, except the Kolkar because they're smaller, they average about 15 to 20 feet tall. They can weigh up to 5,000 pounds. For their size and their weight, they are incredibly agile and athletic. And they've built all of their technologies around that. Well, in the beginning era of their Anthelian period, there are stories about an ancient city called Nakaruz. Nakaruz was a ancient city that the Seolans, when they first came together, they the nomadic tribe eventually they would come together because that's just what they do. Seolans like to be together. They don't like to be very separated. They don't like to be very far apart. Well, the early Seolan was also very greedy. They weren't in tune with their understanding of how the universe is. They like to grab land. They like to take things. They like to expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger. The ancient city of Nakaruz was no different. Well, they invaded on the territory of an ancient spirit called the Spirit of the Forest, the Guardian, if you want. It was a massive 300-foot tall deer that strode through the forest and protected its borders. Well, when the Seolans invaded on that territory, the Spirit of the Forest warned the Seolans, if you keep treading in my forest, I will take from you. The Seolans did not abide by that. They did not. And they did exactly that. They went right into the forest. They started clearing through trees and erecting more buildings and stuff. And so the very next night, the Spirit of the Forest went into Nakaruz and killed half of their population. It was called the Night of Tears. And ever since then, Seolans have had nothing but the utmost respect of nature. They will not take unless it's necessary. They will not expand unless it's necessary. They will not do anything unless it's necessary. Most of the time, they create up. They don't create out. Well, there's after that whole event, there was this hero. Oh, fuck. What the hell's his name? Rion Dald. Rion Dald was the Seolan hero at the time, and he swore that he would exact vengeance against the Spirit of the Forest. And with a sword that he forged from light, the golden blade of Zalor, he goes to the forest and finds the Guardian and engages in deadly combat. In the last final moments of the fight, he is knocked to the ground, and the Spirit of the Forest goes to kill him, and he cuts open its neck. or he cuts open its heart, and blood pours from its wound, creating the rivers and the mountains and the oceans of Zaltos. Then he dips his entire sword in its blood, making it immortal. And doused in the blood of the spirit of the forest, he also became immortal. And the whole story is supposed to outline like the strength of Seolans and how their warriormanship skills is and shit like that. Very spiritual process. In They decide to move their city from Nakarus, and well, Rion, he throws his sword and it passes over two mountains until it lands in a fertile valley. And where the sword would land, they would make their new city called Zaltos. And eventually, that's where they moved. And they created their new city. And that's where they lived for quite some time. Well, fast forward, because most of it is a bunch of weird jargon, mythological nonsense, something about a water balloon popping over some woman's head and creating babies and shit. Whatever. Fast forward towards a period of time when their technology started getting better, started getting greater. They discovered mod chem technology and started figuring out that the world and the universe that they're on, it was already inhabited. Something else was here. It's no longer here anymore, and they don't have to fear it. Whatever it was left there for a reason. So they took the technology and they reverse engineered it, and then they figured everything out, and then they started to expand. They got off their world. Zaltos, even though in its primary, mind you, this is also like the span of like a couple 100,000 years, plus or minus. Several generations of Seolans have already gone by. By the way, Seolans can live up to 2,000 years. Oh goodness. The shit, what the hell am I going on with? I wouldn't say commercialization of hyperspace engines, but it was pretty close because hyperspace engines were created and large ships were allowed to have it. Mind you, this may sound like a really big technological jump, but a lot of shit happens during the Anthelian period. This is like a close to 1 million, 2 million, 3 million years of time for the Seolans to live. So a lot of stuff happens. Well, they start getting into the plasma era. They have left the 1.7 technological scale, and they are now on to like 2.1, 2.2. Plasma technology, fusion, all that shit like that. And they discovered that there are these crystals called blue sail crystals that harbor energy inside of them, an energy that can be harnessed, an energy that can be turned into fuel, which can power their systems. And it was an incredible amount of power. It was not limitless, but it was a lot. And it's also clean. Upon the creation of hyperspace drives, they could travel to other worlds, other stars, other cosmoses, other places. That's exactly what they did. However, with the spread of the Seolans now going to different star systems and different, planets and colonizing different worlds, now Seolans were spread out. They were everywhere. However, that means that they needed a mission. They need a unifying method. And, well, the Empire was created. However, not a lot of Seolans were okay with the idea of an empire, of a unifying mass, a governing force that would, govern all of their life. However, it was founded on the principle of freedom, individuality, and liberty. So the empire definitely meant, hey, you guys are allowed to do whatever you guys want as long as you're loyal to the empire. Easy. And since taxes don't exist over there, shit was tits. I probably shouldn't say that on YouTube, should I? Anyway, there was the birth of the separatists and then the birth of the loyalists. Loyalists wanted the empire to exist. They want, a unifying mass. Separatists didn't. They did not want the empire to exist. They did not want the empire to be around. My nose. It is like super stuffed. Okay, so fights ensued in the Civil War. the first civil war was started, and that was the start of the first eon. It didn't last very long, though. This was during the era of single fire plasma weapons and single load breaching and shit like that. Uh, that was not a good fight. The separatists were absolutely slapped around. The Empire had more resources, it had more access to more troopers, and well, the separatists lost. And even though they lost, they were still allowed to live in the Empire or live separately from the Empire. They didn't care. Most of them exiled themselves, and some of them tried to create their own colonies and failed. And others, like the good Dr. Eero Ports, used his abilities and knowledge of Modcam gates to become useful. Well, now with hyperspace engines or hyperdrive engines now commercialized and available to the public, the Seolans began spreading out very, very fast, unchecked, unabated, just everywhere. They just spread and spread and spread and spread and kept colonizing world after world after world after world, terraforming where they could and just going, which is not a good thing. Eventually, they would land in someone else's territory, which is exactly what happened. After several decades, several centuries of unchecked expansion, they expanded into the wrong territory, the Drakor Legion. This space of empire, or this space of galactic empire, was already like pre-established, but they didn't know about the Seolans until they created a colony on a world that was in their territories. And when they saw that, they slaughtered everybody. Women, children, healthy, sick, old, young, didn't matter. There were no survivors on that first colony. And then they realized how close they were, the Seolan Empire. And the Drakor, these dragon people, they are a type of creatures in the Amaze Me Gods universe called reptoids. They are reptilian folk. 2 legs, 2 arms, sometimes, wings on their back, breathe certain elements. They can be ranging from colors from common brown to extremely rare crystal. And there's all sorts of variants in there. But the Drakor started invading back, calling the Seolans land grabbers. Their entire culture was disgusting. The way that they spoke, it was derogatory to listen to, and they just hated them. Absolutely fucking hated them. And so they would exact vengeance, and they would just keep fighting and pressing on. And at the time, unfortunately, the Seolan Empire did not have a standing military, which was really shitty. The got bogeys in my nose. Oh God! Oh, my side. The Seolans being spread out so far with not a whole lot of military to go around because they didn't have a standing military. The best that they had was defense from, the colonists. And eventually, a military force was formed called the Chet Rulan military that fought back valiantly against the Drakor people. And more people wanted to join the military because they wanted to protect their borders and want to protect their people. The Drakor Wars got really, really bad. Like, let's say that the galaxy is like this. So you have this big old fucking galaxy. Well, the Drakor Empire is here. The Seolan Empire is over here. And they drove really, really far in. So far in that they got all the way to Frogel Shores on Zaltos. Planet Zaltos is their homeworld. A lot of things happened in the Drakor Wars, by the way. This is a very, run-down version of it. I'll talk about it another time. But for some strange reason, and historians still don't know this, or why, all of them, even the wounded, even the mortally wounded, turned around and left. I'll talk about that another time, and you'll know why. So the Seolan Empire was spared after fighting for several centuries, upwards towards 7,000. No, it was 8,400 years that they fought, and they had been fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and the empire was on its knees. It was at the mercy of the Dracoar Empire. It didn't work because they all left. Well, a small grace period of about 350 years passed, and the Seolan Empire was just getting back on its feet. Chetrelan military spreading amongst the stars, trying to help the people of the empire, and for lack of better terms, they did. And then the Kragan Wars happened. The Kragan Wars was a costly war, and even with the Dracoar Wars still fresh in the minds of the people were tired. They were demoralized. They were not ready for that. The very first world that was taken by the Kragan masses. By the way, let me do a little talking about the Kragan. The Kragan are these reptoid creatures that do not have wings. They have a big, lumpy, square head. There it is. They have a lumpy, square head. They have big jaws. I would call them very aggressive creatures. And they're all clones of each other. Oh, yeah. They are mean, mean, mean. They are mean, mean, mean. They are mean. The Kragan were cloned off of one clone named Krog Vitnell. Krog Vitnell, I'm turning the pages towards him really quick. Give me a second. Krog Vita. Now, Krog Vitnell claimed to be one of the last descendants of the Vitel. Remember that? He said the universe is unforgiving and it doesn't care whether you live or die. So to be strong, to show your strength, you must be the strongest. You must take the mantle that the universe leaves you. And what better to prove your strength than to take out an entire galactic empire? Krog Vitnell. Can't show you that one. Krog Vitnell is a very evil creature. He did not care. He did not care what the war would entail. He didn't care what would happen. He didn't care. He just didn't care. He was a religious zealot. He lopped off parts of his body because he thought that it made him weak. You could probably figure out that part. He created his clone armies. He cloned himself 8 times, and each of his genetic clones were his generals. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. I have to go through it again. But each of their 8 generals cloned themselves another 40 times for each of their lieutenants, and then their lieutenants cloned themselves was like 200 times, and each general was in charge of a tribe that they would have to like manually upkeep. Well, speaking of manually upkeep, I have to show you the other pictures of the Krog people. This is exciting. I really like talking about this because it's something else. The Kragan, they subsided with another species, and this particular species was at the end of its limb. It was going extinct, and Krog Vitnell had pity for it. And so Krog Vitnell offered to fuse itself with it. That is a queen spore. A queen spore creates a vat spore, a steward spore, nutrient space spore, and a connector spore. And they all have their own different attributes. They're biomechanical creatures that will be able to grow and become a nest which clones more Kurgan. They need nutrients paste in order for them to grow Kurgan. In order for them to make nutrients paste, they need organic things. Making their nests was a costly process which required a lot of material to make. You have your Kurgans bursting out of the cloning chamber, ready for war as soon as they come out. And yeah, I know it looks kind of weird, but this is just how it is. Nests were formed, and eventually, over time, tribes were formed. And each tribe was associated with different things. I'm talking a lot about the Kurgan right now because they're my favorite my favorite subject. I love talking about them. They're so cool. The Krog Vittenel, he went on a war run on the entirety of the empire. But the very first planet that he decided to invade with millions of cloned troopers, millions, very quickly overwhelmed the backwater planet of planet Ilion. It was really bad. Planet Ilion did not see it coming. There's stories about it. There was not a lot of people who left the world. It had a population of just under 6 billion, and it was supposed to be an agricultural world. And Krog Vittenel chose that world very specifically because it also had a gate on it. A gate that would transfer them to another world called Terminus 5. But we'll go over that in just a second. The Kurgan, they swept the world like a mass of slithering scales, fangs, and claws. They killed everything. They rushed over the walls like a pack of herded, gnarling, gnashing, frothing, angry soldiers. They killed pretty much everything. And the Seolans could not fight against them. They had automatic weaponry, sure. They had weapons that were designed to fight aerial creatures like the Dracor, and not these land-moving, slithering creatures. They were very quickly overwhelmed, and planet Ilion fell in a matter of hours. It was atrocious. There was a very small military force there, and very few people were evacuated off of that world because they just kept climbing over the walls and they kept swarming the people. And every time that they killed one, they'd drag them back to a nest and they'd turn them into nutrients paste. It was better if they were alive, but it was also better if you died. Planet Ilion went under, and nobody from the Empire figured it out until about 2 weeks later when the Kurgan started breaching other worlds. And they would use and steal Seolan ships and turn them against the Empire. They would fly around and they'd go to different places. They'd go to stations. They'd go to worlds. They'd go to everywhere. They would go to as many places as they possibly can to spread the spores. As long as they had the nest spores, they could just gestate wherever they wanted. They went to planet Scrad. They went to Ilion, or they went off of Ilion. They went to Aran. They went to Deos. They went everywhere. Most of the time, they started picking agriculture worlds because there's a lot of nutrients that can be found on those worlds. And what made the Kurgan Wars so difficult is because they kept popping up in different places that the Empire could not have seen. Sometimes they even popped up in their lines. Sometimes they even popped up behind their lines. So they created the First Front. And the First Front was designed to stop the Kurgan menace from continuing. It worked for a little bit. I will not lie. The Seolan Empire did very good stopping the Kurgan menace. And they fought the first, second, third, and fourth tribes there on the front line for a really long time. But the Kurgan got smart and they started shifting this way across the front. And eventually, they went to a world called Amen. Amen was a really cozy off-world backwater world that was just colonized to be an agricultural world. And the Kurgan, specifically Krog Vitnel, he wanted to take that world because that world was right on the edge of the first front. And if they took that world had access to multiple sectors in the local area. And they could have gone quietly, and they did. And it worked. And then the second front had to be made. Now, where the first front was like this, the second front was like that. So it was at an angle. So there is the section of space right here where CRM forces were pushing the Kurgan back against the first front, and the first front was trapped in this middle where Kurgan forces were all right here. It was really bad. It was really bad, actually. Like, really bad. It's a little discomforting to talk about because that entire sector of space was thrashed. And the Seolan Empire or the Chatverlan military was trying to push this way, condensing their forces in a smaller area. And the Kurgan followed right after them. It was bad. They didn't let up for even a second. Well, that's enough about the Kurgan War, because there's a lot of stuff that does happen, and I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm going to go into the Kurgan War into much larger detail another time. A lot of the things that I need to talk about are the well, after the Kurgan Wars was finished, which the Kurgan Wars only lasted 7 cycles. A cycle is 7.1 years, but they didn't get very far. Actually, they did get pretty far, but they didn't get that far. They were stopped by the advances of one of the most legendary people in the entirety of the Seolan Empire, Drake Olante. I'll talk about him another time as well, but just know that he is one hell of a legend. He is one of the greatest legends in the empire. But anyway, after that, now the interaction of humans came to be. The year during the Kurgan Wars for humans is 2182. Earth has discovered other races, and a lot of stuff happens in that 100-year span, by the way. So I can talk about that another time as well. But they discover the Till Galaxy, and they discover the Seolans there. They discover all of that, and they're like, we need to go there. We've discovered, hyperspace engines as well. So they went there. Took them a couple years, and they eventually arrived there 2185. And the leader, or the security head, General Andrew Lacer III, who was a religious fanatic, thought that he was an emissary sent by God to destroy these aliens, the demons. And he conducted a mutiny with his security detail, about 2,000 men. He blew up one of the diplomacy vehicles and threatened the scientists to join and make them, gear that would be adequate to kill the Seolans. They landed. Humans landed the first shot, by the way. They killed a cargo drone, and it blew up. And they went all the way to one world that had the most activity, which is the world that Drake Olante was on during the last battle of the Kurgan War. He goes there. Drake Olante kills Krog Vitnel, and then he's dealing with General Andrew Lacer, small metal men, as they called them. These strange invaders that were just shooting them with these tiny, itty-bitty, pathetic little bullets. And they're like, fucking punts human into a wall. Woo! Well, General Andrew Lacer, having his mech suit, he killed Drake Olante. First, Drake Olante takes his Onyx Black. He cuts him through the midsection, leaves the sword there, and walks away. And General Andrew Lacer's like, "Don't you walk away from me!" Takes the blade out, and before he dies, he cuts Drake Olante down from the shoulder all the way down to his hip, and he kills him. But humans interacting with Seolans was unforeseen. And the Seolans, they were okay with the idea of saying, "Hey, look, we forgive you. you see big thing, you don't understand it, it's okay. It's okay to be scared. It is what it is. They tried to become allies. They put a station over Earth, and then it exploded, and the humans blamed the Seolans. The Seolans blamed the human. There was almost a galactic war, but it turns out that there was a cult and all that nonsense and blah, 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 blah. And then it goes back. Humans invaded the Seolans 6 times, and all 6 times they failed. The first invasion, the attempt of the wormhole plan, another invasion, which was much more prepared than the last one, and then another one, and then another one, and another one, and then the Great Dying. Draco Alante had a daughter. Her name was Kara Alante. She's in the second book, and she helps stop the second human invasion of the wormhole plan. Kara has a son named Kopthiad Alante. Handsome boy. Handsome boy. He had 2 blue eyes. Oh! Like sky blue eyes and white hair, and he looked just like his mom. Anyway, he was a very young planet commander. Very, very young, because in the law and codex of words, the planet commander position is given to the next in line, whether it be family or in military rank. But in this instance, it was family, so Kopthiad got to be bestowed upon it. Well, there's a very corrupt individual named Areno Miari. He hated mutant types. He thought all of the problems as of late were because of mutant types. Draco Alante was a mutant type. To explain them, Seolans are pure types, which means that if a mother and a father get together and make a baby, the baby will only take attributes from mother or father, not both. The Seolan genetic line does not work that way. Mutant types, however, have a genetic coding that directly links them to the ancient Modcam. And the ancient Modcam did have the connecting traits between mother and father. Well, Draco Alante was a mutant type. And when his mother and father got together, he had brown hair, brown skin, brown eyes. Kara Alante is the product of what Cathendra Alante and Draco Alante, when they got together. Cathendra had purple platinum hair, 1 blue eye, 1 green eye, and freckled white skin. And when they put them together, you made Kara. And then Kara had a mysterious husband that I'm not going to reveal, and made Kopthiad. And, well, Areno Miari does not like mutant types. He thinks mutant types are the reason why there were so many problems in the universe, or in the Empire. So he offers to Kopthiad. He says, why don't you let a more experienced, military commander become the planet commander? And he's like, yeah, I'm just a kid, so here you go. And he enacts genocide. He does the one thing that planet commanders are not supposed to do, and kills his own people. He enacted a witch hunt on mutant types, and they were slaughtered in the streets. They were pulled up high and strung up loose. It was bad. And Areno Miari was looking for Kopthiad. And then another human invasion began. And this time they were a little more prepared for it. Areno Miari saw those humans. The 6th invasion. He said, we are going to destroy the human race. We are going to obliterate their home world, and they will not be able to come back from it. So he's trying to find weapons left behind by the ancient Modcam. And he finds a laboratory with mysterious black liquid in a crystalline chamber, long forgotten. He didn't know what it was and thought it was a bioweapon. Told his scientists to open it up. And the unbeing came back, sealed away for a very, very, very long time. And it spread like wildfire. It was bad. The unbeing took what it wanted, how it wanted, when it wanted, who it wanted, with no regard. It just killed and killed and killed. And this is the event called the Great Dying, when the entirety of the Empire and the Till Galaxy fell because of Areno Miari. Well, Arena Miari, Cop the Adelante, and a handful of Seolans escape on the US CRM Thorn, and they leave. And Arena Miari is still trying to order his people to kill mutant types. Kill Cop the Adelante. Kill him. He's the reason why the Empire fell. He's the reason why the Unbeing came around. Like, no, you're the reason, you scumbag. They crash land on a distant, dark world, unknown to any one of them. Cop Thead runs into a cavern system to try to get away from Areno Miari, and he comes across this glowing pool of blue fire, and he thinks that this is it. And just as soon as something happens, the fire erupts like a plume of fire, and it creates the circle. And the old flame comes back, and it holds them both in this magnetic strength and says, "Who are you to disturb my slumber?" Copthead was the first to answer. "I am Copthead Olante, and that one over there is trying to kill me." And then Areno says, "Yes, because you killed our people." So he sets them both down, holds them there. "Why should I not kill you both for disturbing my slumber?" Areno Miari blubbers on about, I'm the greatest leader in the entirety of the empire. I've saved the people, but he's the one who killed them. And, it's all shitty and shit. And then Copthead, he says, "I have no concern for my life. I have friends that are probably still out there, suffering, families broken apart, dying. My people are destroyed. We're going extinct. This is it." And the old flame thought for a second and released them both. And as soon as as soon as the old flame released Areno Miari charged at Copthead. And then in an instant, he was deatomized. Just turned to ash. Held in this cloud of Areno Miari. And Old Flame asks Copthead, "Give me something from you so that I may replenish your people and send you on your merry way." And Copthead very forcibly removes his own left eye and gives it to the Old Flame. And the Old Flame takes Copthead's material, which was a mutant type, and Arena Miari's DNA and atoms, which was a pure type, and mixed them together, creating a new race of Seolans. Created, like 100,000 of them, and slapped them all together inside these white crystalline chambers, and sent them on their merry way. The Old Flame says, "Follow those creatures. Follow your people to your new home, and never come back here. Never wake me up. Never return." Copthead shipped the U.S. Serum Thorn, lifted off the ground, rebuilt itself thanks to the old flame, and they left. And they followed it to a new galaxy called the Uari Galaxy, onto a new world called Planet Uari. Now that the remnants of the Seolan Empire have gone to a new place, they've had new troubles. The Atwali. The Atwali are ancient descendants of the super soldier system that the Krugan had once created because they were trying to battle the Archelites. And that's a whole fucking slew of shit that I've got to talk about another day, because I'm coming up on the hour mark. I got 2 minutes until an hour. And I'm going to close it up with at the Great Dying and Resurgence, just know that the Seolans had to do really bad things to get themselves back in line. 100,000 Seolans living on an island that was only about 87 miles long by like 32 wide. Not fun. Not fun for giants. That's for damn sure. The empire was eventually reformed, and eventually they got to colonize other places, and eventually they got back on their feet. Eventually. This took a long time. However, they thought that the Till Galaxy was completely dead. But when they started receiving transmissions from the Till Galaxy, that's when they started their rescue operations. However, the Seolans that were left in the Till Galaxy The few who did survive the Great Dying, they were angry. Why did the Empire abandon them? So a whole slew of issue came from that. Well, I am on my hour mark now. I think I'm going to close this conversation with I'm going to continue these live streams. I'm going to do my best to keep it closer to more like 30 minutes. I'm going to do more things in outlines. I'm going to shorten it as much as I can. I was stumbling over my words, but it is what it is. I'm also going to do a lot of like reading during these things. And I didn't cover all of the lore. I've only covered certain segments of the lore. And none of this is a completely linear story. There are stories that are in the lore that are linear, but the entire lore itself is up, down, over, down, a scoot, button, boogie. I'm probably gonna get demonetized for that. But here, before I go, I'm gonna show you some art. We have the Protagonist doing dumb things, being stupid. How did none of you hear what I just said? I've been zoned out for the past 2 hours. I got distracted halfway through. Ignoring you was a conscious decision. Fucking... Oh, can't say that anymore. Oh, yeah. These are the Protagonists, by the way. Right here. This is one of them, at least. This is Michael, the god of destruction. And then you've got Lucifer. Well, Lucifer's right here. This is a smaller picture. You got Lucifer, Michael, Odette, and Rose. And, well, for lack of better terms, those are the gods. They, oh, here we go. So you got the Enthelian period, Civil War, lots of stories happen during there. And then you have the Great Expansion, lots of stuff happens during the Great Expansion. The Drakor Wars, which happens because of the unchecked expansion of the Sealand Empire, lots of stuff happens there. Then there's a grace period right there, a little tiny grace period right there. And then you got the Kurgan Wars. Then a lot of stuff happens after that. There's actually a lot of, during this time period right here, during the Kurgan Wars, the first human invasion is here and the last one is here. So 6 invasions happens in this time frame. And then after the Great Dying, you have Resurgence, which a lot of shit happens during Resurgence, and then you've got the Techno Scourge Wars. I will talk about that another day. And then you have the Second Civil War, and then you have Valiance. And these are all eon, like the names of the eons that they all have. Here he is. Lucifer, the god of creation. He ain't got no feet. And snakes come out of his head, or a hole in his head, I guess, a hole in his neck. You got the Drakor right here, which I need to redraw them because it doesn't look that good. The Drakor were these are the reptoids that I was talking about. Same thing with the Kurgan. The Kurgan are technically reptoids, but they don't have any like genetic. Okay, I'm about to start popping off before I need to pop off. Oh man, where is the Forever Way? There's so much stuff I got to talk about when it comes to the lore. There's a lot. It is extremely overwhelming. But I've got to segment it all down into like appropriate words and stuff, and it's going to be really hard. I'm going to tell you this right now. Like, look, nests. Look, nests. He grumbling, he pointing. He's got a bardiche. And then you've got spores doing different things. Look at that. Look at that. Tactical tentacle. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to the Amaze Me Gods universe. There's so much. And the Amaze Me Gods universe isn't the only book that I've written. I've also got the Stories universe. I've also got Red Steam, Lemur, Zombocalypse, which eventually I need to go back through and delve the thing. Yeah, it's a zombie apocalypse, but I'm just saying, I love my zombie apocalypses. Well, besides that, I believe that is the end of my stream for now. I'll have people post it out. If you like me talking about the lore of certain things, comment. And if you also would be pretty kind as to spread the word of this to your friends and companions, even better, because publicity. The Amaze Me God series and all of the other universes, they are fantastic things to talk about. I love showing them off too. And if you like things like that, you should like the video and subscribe maybe, because it's pretty cool if you did, I guess. And maybe I'll think about doing like a Patreon thing, and I don't know. I'll think about that. And, it helps support me and all of this. And I mean, money is. I'm just gonna toot my own thing here. Before I do, bless me. See, just all of this. I want to do this, and I want to do Patreon, and I want to have people, paying attention to all of this. I want people to see it and wonder and be amazed and amaze me gods. I hope that I hope that all of this kicks off. I hope it kicks off really well. Anyway, I'm 6 minutes past the hour time, and I've got stuff to do. And I'm gonna make shorts. I'm gonna make like short story videos, narrated by actual voice actors. And there's a whole lot. And I'm gonna have something that's gonna be behind me, a backdrop, so that you don't have to see all of this. By the way, yes, that is GG in the background, and VR stuff. And well, to those 2 people who were here checking out the video, peace and love. Thank you so much for listening. My fan base is pretty much everything I have. So thanks for stopping by and listening. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Please have a good day. Drink some water and eat a good meal, and pay attention to your hydration levels. Peace and love. I don't know how to end this. Bye? No, wait. Toodly-doo. No. Something more energetic. We'll go with that. Bye.